welcome back to our channel, everyone. Today is a beautiful Thursday, the kind of day where the sun is shining brightly, making you want to just sit back with a warm cup of coffee and take in the world. We are so incredibly grateful to have you here with us as we dive into the latest, truly heart-wrenching developments in Genoa City. Let's just jump right into the heart of the matter, because there is so much emotional chaos to unpack today. You know, when you really stop and take a moment to think about Jack Abbott, it's hard not to feel a deep, overwhelming sense of tragedy about where his mind is currently at. I've been pondering this all morning, just trying to understand how a man who fought so incredibly hard to bring Diane Jenkins back into his life, back into the safety of the Abbott fold, could suddenly reach such a devastating breaking point. It's as if the sheer weight of their recent struggles has completely crushed his spirit. Or at least, the fighting spirit he used to possess. Jack is just so exhausted. He's tired of the constant friction, the endless apologies, and the suffocating feeling that no matter what he does or says, Diane just cannot fully forgive him for the betrayal on that boat. He feels pushed away, isolated in his own home. And when a man like Jack Abbott feels isolated, he becomes dangerously vulnerable to outside forces. It's honestly heartbreaking to watch him spiral like this, completely convinced that his marriage is a lost cause, when we all know there are so many dark, unseen hands actively pulling his strings. And then there's Diane. Oh, my heart just aches for Diane in this specific scenario. You really have to put yourself in her shoes for a moment to grasp the pain. Just imagine the sheer, visceral trauma of seeing the man you love, the man you fought the whole world to be with, entangled with someone as dangerous and unpredictable as Patty Williams. Diane isn't just being stubborn or difficult. She's terrified. She's deeply traumatized. She can't just flip a switch and forgive Jack for the betrayal she witnessed, even if he was manipulated by Victor Newman's cruel machinations. The betrayal is etched into her mind, playing on a loop. And Jack's inability to understand her need for time, his impatience with her healing process, it's just driving a massive, insurmountable wedge between them. I sit here and I think, if only they could just sit down, strip away the pride, and really listen to each other's pain. But they aren't. They are drifting apart, floating on this dark ocean of misunderstanding. And it's leaving the door wide open for the absolute worst kind of predator to step right in. Which brings us to Patty Williams. I honestly get chills down my spine just thinking about how Patty operates in the shadows. She doesn't come at you with a knife or threat. She comes at you with a soft smile, a gentle touch, and words that sound so incredibly validating. That's her true, terrifying weapon. She has slithered her way back into Jack's orbit, playing the role of the innocent, misunderstood victim who just happens to be the only person in the entire world who truly gets him right now. It's a masterclass in psychological manipulation. She looks at Jack with those wide, adoring eyes, whispering that she understands his pain, that she accepts him exactly as he is, flaws and all, while painting Diane as the one offering only judgment. And Jack, poor, emotionally blinded Jack, he's drinking it up like a man dying of thirst in the Dayan Sahara Desert. It makes you want to scream at the television, doesn't it? You just want to shake him and yell, "Wake up, Jack," but he can't hear us. He only hears Patty's sweet, toxic lullabies echoing in his mind. But let's really take a step back and think about what Patty is actually doing here. This isn't just about her twisted, decades-long obsession with Jack Abbott, though, of course, that's a massive part of her motivation. There is something so much more sinister brewing beneath the surface of her sweet smiles. We know Patty has been secretly aiding Matt Clark in Genoa City, helping him navigate his amnesia, perhaps even using him as a pawn in her own grand, chaotic chess game. Patty is incredibly calculating. She wants revenge against Victor Newman for using her as a pawn on that yacht. She wants to destroy the people who have discarded her. And what better way to do that than to completely dismantle the powerful Abbott family from the inside out? By taking control of Jack, she doesn't just get the man she's obsessed with. She gets immense power. She gets leverage. She gets to watch Diane Jenkins suffer in the most agonizing, public way possible. It's just pure, unadulterated evil wrapped in a sweet, floral perfume. The tension leading up to this defining moment has been absolutely suffocating. When the news broke that Jack had called a sudden, emergency press conference at Abbott, you could practically feel the collective anxiety radiating through the streets of Genoa City. I mean, Kyle Abbott's reaction alone was enough to make your stomach drop to the floor. Kyle has been dealing with so much lately, especially with Patty's cryptic, terrifying hints about his own maternity and the swap sample. And now, watching his father bypass the board, bypass the family, and set up the cameras in the Abbott press room, Kyle knew. He didn't know the exact specifics, but he felt that deep, intuitive dread that only a son can feel when he watches his father walk blindly toward the edge of a cliff. Kyle tried to intervene. He tried to talk sense into Jack, to ask him what on earth he was doing, but Jack was already gone. His eyes were glazed over with this terrifying, absolute resolve that could not be broken. Just picture the scene in that Jabba boardroom. The flashing lights of the cameras, the low, buzzing murmur of the reporters. The sleek, corporate backdrop that is usually reserved for announcing quarterly earnings or launching a new, luxurious fragrance line. It felt entirely wrong. It felt like a profound violation of the space. Jack stepped up to the podium, looking every inch the powerful, confident CEO, dressed impeccably as always. But if you look closely, if you really look deep into his eyes, there was a hollowness there. A tragic, manipulated emptiness. He gripped the edges of the podium, taking a breath that seemed to pull all the oxygen out of the room. And I found myself holding my own breath, just waiting for the heavy axe to fall. You could feel the electric anticipation. The reporters leaning in, pens poised, cameras rolling, completely unaware that they were about to witness a brutal, public execution of a marriage. When Jack finally started speaking, he didn't even try to soften the blow with corporate jargon or business updates. He didn't talk about Abbott stock prices or international expansions. He pivoted immediately to the deeply personal. And the sheer audacity of it was absolutely staggering. "Today, I am not speaking to you as the CEO of Jabot Cosmetics," he said, his voice echoing in the silent, tense room. "I am speaking to you as Jack Abbott, a man who has spent his entire life searching for peace, and a man who has finally realized that he has been looking in the wrong places." The silence that followed those words was deafening. You could literally hear a pin drop. It was one of those surreal moments where time just seems to slow down, where you realize that a line is about to be crossed, and once it is, nothing will ever be the same again for anyone involved. And then, he said it, the words that will echo in the halls of the Abbott mansion forever. Jack publicly, coldly, and unequivocally announced that his marriage to Diane Jenkins was over. He didn't just say they were separating. He didn't say they were taking time apart to heal or work on their issues. He declared it dead, finished, over, to do this in front of the press. To humiliate Diane in such a profound, global way. It just shows how deeply Patty's poison has infected his brain. Jack Abbott, a man who prides himself on family, on loyalty, on protecting the women he loves, was standing in front of the world and publicly discarding his wife like she meant absolutely nothing to him. I felt physically sick watching it unfold, the cruelty of it. The absolute, devastating cruelty. It's hard to even process how a man can do that to someone he once claimed to love more than life itself. Now, let's shift our thoughts to Diane in that exact, agonizing moment. Imagine her, perhaps sitting in her suite, or watching a monitor in the Jabot offices, seeing the man she loves tear her heart out on live television. The physical toll of that kind of betrayal, it's not just emotional, it's visceral. Her knees must have buckled beneath her. The air must have been completely knocked out of her lungs. This was her absolute worst nightmare manifesting in real time. Diane has fought so hard to prove she changed, to prove she was worthy of Jack's love, to build a life where she was finally safe and respected. And in one single breath, Jack shattered it all. He didn't just break her heart, he humiliated her in front of the entire city. He validated every single one of her deepest insecurities. The tears, the gasp for air, the sheer, paralyzing shock. It's a level of pain that I wouldn't wish on my absolute worst enemy. But Jack wasn't finished. Oh no, the true, unbelievable horror was yet to come. Because after he announced the end of his marriage, he didn't step down from the podium. He looked toward the wings of the stage, his expression softening into the sickeningly devoted, manipulated gaze. And he introduced the woman who had saved him. The woman who had offered him true understanding and unconditional acceptance. And out walked Patty Williams. I can't even begin to describe the visual whiplash of that moment. Patty, dressed in something deceptively simple, looking so incredibly innocent, so demure, as she walked up to the podium and placed her hand gently over Jack's. The contrast between her sweet, fragile facade and the absolute nuclear destruction she had just orchestrated, it was chilling. It was like watching a venomous spider admire the helpless fly caught in its meticulously spun web. The most tragic part of this entire spectacle is Jack's absolute, unwavering delusion. As he stood there, holding Patty's hand in front of the flashing cameras, he genuinely believed he was doing the right thing. He believed he was following his heart. You could see it in the way he spoke. He truly thought he was breaking free from a toxic cycle with Diane and stepping into the warm light with Patty. He is completely, utterly blind to the puppet strings attached to his limbs. He doesn't see that Patty is manipulating his pain, feeding his ego, and isolating him from anyone who could actually save him. He thinks he has found a safe sanctuary, but he has actually just locked himself in a cage with a monster. It's a psychological tragedy of Shakespearean proportions. A king willingly handing over his crown and his kingdom to the very person who plans to burn it all to the ground. And the Abbott family, my God, the Abbott family. The shockwaves hitting them right now must be insurmountable. Kyle. Poor, devastated Kyle, who is already drowning in the terrifying possibility that Diane might not even be his biological mother thanks to Patty's cruel, calculated hints. Having to watch his father publicly claim this lunatic as his new partner. Kyle's world is completely collapsing around him. Tracy, Ashley, Billy, they must be watching in absolute, paralyzed horror. They know Patty. They know exactly what she is capable of. They remember the miscarriages, the fires, the shootings, the absolute menace that follows Patty Williams wherever she goes. And now she is standing at the podium of their family company, holding the hand of their patriarch. It is an unmitigated disaster, and they are completely powerless to stop the train wreck from happening. As the press conference concluded, there was a moment, just a split second, where the cameras caught Patty's face as Jack turned away to answer a question. The innocent, demure smile vanished, replaced by a calculating, triumphant glare that sent literal shivers down my spine. She won. In that moment, she had completely conquered Jack Abbott. But we have to wonder, what is her next move? Because Patty Williams is never satisfied with just one victory. This isn't just about having Jack, it's about punishing everyone else. Diane is now a wounded animal, and Patty knows that a wounded Diane is a dangerous Diane. The stage is set for an absolute emotional bloodbath. Patty is using Jack as a human shield, as a weapon, and as a trophy all at once. And Jack is just smiling, completely oblivious to the ticking time bomb he has just brought into the very heart of his family. I find myself sitting here, staring at the screen, trying to wrap my mind around the sheer scale of the emotional destruction we are witnessing today. How does Jack ever come back from this when he finally wakes up? How does Diane ever recover from such a public, brutal betrayal? And what on earth is Kyle going to do, knowing that the woman who just destroyed his parents' marriage is the exact same woman holding the dark, terrifying secrets of his own identity? The Abbott family is shattered, perhaps irreparably. The days ahead in Genoa City are going to be dark, tense, and filled with a kind of sorrow that is hard to shake off. We will be watching every single moment, analyzing every glance, and praying that someone, somehow, can break Patty's spell before it's entirely too late.